Guys, it's Sarah, and today we're going to talk about my November wrap-up. This is a little bit late, but we were out of town at the end of November, so it's here now. And I read a total of 7 books. 2 of them are graphic novels, and then I have some interesting things to talk about at the end as well. It was an interesting month. The biggest thing about November is that I finished up my reading project for my young adult literature class. I will have a full wrap-up of all the books that I read for a big reading project I did for that class, so that'll be coming up here soon. But for this month, I started out with The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas by John Boyne. This is a historical book. Now, this has been criticized for not being accurate historically, but I don't know. It's okay. It's not a nonfiction. I can say that. So I believe that the liberties he took are understandable, and that's his right to do that. So I don't understand the criticism. But for this one, we follow a young boy, and his name is Bruno, and he is living in Berlin with his father. They're very happy. He loves his life, blah, blah, blah. This little boy is like 8 or 9, something like that. I think he's 9. And they end up moving because of his father's job. His father got this new job, and he's very proud of it, and he's excited, and they have to move. And they move to this place that Bruno calls Outwits. That's how he's pronouncing it. And that's what he heard when he hears people talking about it. Now, when I heard that, because I listened to the audiobook of this one, when I heard that, I was like, it's Auschwitz. Yep. So his father is one of the commanders at Auschwitz. So this is a very interesting take on a different side of that, and seeing it from a child's point of view, because you're seeing it from Bruno's point of view. And just the innocence was heartbreaking, because we know now what was happening at that time. And we know how evil it was, and how terrible it was, and how these people were being treated. Bruno, in this time, on that side of things, doesn't know anything. He doesn't even really know what his dad does. So it was heartbreaking. And Bruno ends up making a friend of a little boy who's living on the other side of the fence, who is wearing striped pajamas the way that everyone else on that side of the fence is wearing striped pajamas. And he really doesn't understand what's happening or why. The ending of this book broke me. I almost cried. I was right there. I had tears in my eyes. Nothing fell. I kept it under control. But oh my gosh, the ending of this book just shook me to my core. It was crazy. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. It's very short, but it packs a big punch, and I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. The next one that I read is one that was also included in my Elena Reads Books Made Me Buy It, and now I am reading it. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it down below. But that is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, and this is a graphic novel that is adapted and illustrated by Fred Fordham. And this is a graphic novel version of the classic To Kill a Mockingbird. And I loved this so much. To Kill a Mockingbird is one of my favorite books of all time. And I loved revisiting the story in this format. It was fresh. It was unique. It was still the story. Nothing was changed. But it was told, obviously mostly through dialogue. And the illustrations were beautiful. And it really captures the feel and the tone of the book. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was just a great, really quick refresher on the book, and you're still in the story, and you're still getting all the messages, and you're still getting all of that and the emotions without reading the full text. So absolutely loved it. And I'm really glad that I picked this up when I saw Elena haul it, because I was like, oh my gosh, I have to read that. And it was 5 stars. I loved it. And the next one that I read for my class is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. Now, this is a reread for me. I did read this in high school, and I remember loving it in high school, but I haven't read it as an adult. So I really wanted to take this opportunity to read it as an adult and see what my feelings were on it. And again, a tiny book that packs so much. So much happens in this book for just teeny tiny. And I was really surprised. And I basically remembered the story. There were a couple things in here that happened that I had forgotten about. And it really hit me emotionally. So that was good. And I loved it. These characters are so good. They're so great. And it's just such a wonderful example of friendship and love and family, and, even not blood family, like the family that you make around you. And it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. It broke my heart, and revisiting it was awesome. And I'm so glad that I did. And I loved it just as much as I did when I first read it. So it was another 5 stars. The next one that I read is It's Always the Husband by Michelle Campbell. I listened to this one on audiobook, and the audiobook is really great. It's one of my favorite narrators, which is January Lavoie. And this one follows a trio of friends who meet in, I guess, kind of a boarding school, college. It's a college? I guess it's kind of college. And there's 3 of them, and they form a friendship that's very interesting. It's full of mistrust and judgment, but they're friends, and they look out for each other. And you follow them both. It's a dual timeline, so you follow them both through school and some things that are happening in school, and then you follow them in what's happening today as well. And just kind of the different paths that their lives took and how they're still friends and, all that stuff. It's very, very, very interesting. I'm not going to give you my star rating yet because this was one of my 5-star predictions. So that will be coming up here soon in a follow-up. And but I did really enjoy it. Another book that was on my Elena Reads Makes Me Buy It, that is Death's Acre, and this is written by Dr. Bill Bass and John Jefferson. This is another one that I listened to on audiobook, and the audiobook is fantastic. This follows a real place called the Body Farm, which is a farm in Tennessee where they do a lot of forensic testing on cadavers, dead bodies, people who have donated their body in the name of science to do research and all that stuff. And this farm has single-handedly come up with a lot of the forensic science baselines, I guess you could say, that have helped solve cases. So they will, put bodies in different environments on this farm. They'll put them in a hot car for however long. And what does that environment do to the body and the decomposition? And, it has helped people build timelines on, figuring out when this person has died based on what is happening to the body in that time frame. And it was fantastic. It was really, really so interesting. Not for the faint of heart. There's lots of gritty details in here. I mean, it talks about bodies and things that happen, but it was just so interesting to me that, so much has come out of this and what it has done for forensics today, because, so much goes into it that you don't even think about. And it was just fascinating to me. I thought it was really, really interesting. I thought it was written really, really well. I was able to follow it, no problem. And, there were parts that were pretty funny as well. And I just absolutely loved it. And the fact that, all this is real is just fascinating to me. So I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. And then the last one that I read for my reading project was My Friend Dahmer. And this is written by Durf Backdurf, which is not his real name, but I think it's like a take on his name. And this is a graphic novel, and this is a nonfiction that follows his actual experience being friends with Jeffrey Dahmer in high school. They went to high school together. They had interactions together, and this is his experience with that and his memories of knowing him before he became what we all know today as one of the craziest serial killers of our time. And this one was really interesting, and it definitely showed the struggles of Jeffrey Dahmer in the beginning. I know that some of that was not what the author personally experienced. So he had to take interviews from Jeffrey Dahmer that he has given. He had to take some witness eye accounts to kind of piece those things together. But, he talked about his research and everything he had to do to kind of put those elements in there. The elements that he personally experienced were easy because he experienced them and he remembers them. But everything that he was not physically there or a part of, had to be taken from, books, interviews, all that stuff that Jeffrey Dahmer had done himself. So it was interesting, and it really shows his struggle and, kind of where things started, and how he was in social elements in high school, which is hard enough as it is, right? And, throw in those urges that he's getting that he knows are wrong. It was it was interesting, definitely. I liked the art style as well. It was very dark and gritty, which definitely fit the tone of the book. You're following a serial killer. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. There is a movie adaptation for this as well, which I do plan to watch. As part of my class, we have to do a book to movie adaptation project where we read the book and then watch the movie, and we have to do a comparison thing, and we can pick whichever one we want. And I want to do this one because Ross Lynch is in it, and I really want to see him play something other than a Disney character. So I'm interested to see how that's going to go. But I do plan to watch that this week, so I'm excited for that one. But I really did enjoy the graphic novel. I thought it was good, and I gave it 4 stars. And the last few books I have to talk about are books that were for the Buzzword Readathon that happened at the end of November, and it was for numbers. So anything with a number in the title, some way, shape, or form counted. So I picked 3 books for that. So the first one that I read was Veronica Mars, and this is the $10,000 Tan Line, written by Rob Thomas and Jennifer Graham. And this is just like a little continuation of Veronica Mars. So Veronica Mars is the main character, and it follows, her being home and going through some things. There's some stuff happening on spring break in Neptune, and you see her try to follow along with the case and solve it. And I loved it. I did. I am a fan of Veronica Mars. I think you need to be a fan to pick this up and enjoy it. I would not go into this cold without seeing the show or the movies or anything like that, because you're not really going to understand some of the characters that are in there and why they're important and why they matter. So I think it's important for you to already be a fan to really pick this up and enjoy it. But I listened to it on audio because Kristen Bell, who plays Veronica Mars, was the narrator, and she was perfection. So I definitely will be picking up the second one as well and listening to that, because I'm pretty sure she does that one as well. So it was fun. It was great. It was easy. It was fast. And I really enjoyed it. Okay, here's where things go downhill. All right. So also for the Buzzword Readathon, I picked up The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. Now, this has been on my shelves for quite a while. It's one that I've always been interested in reading. It's very, very polarizing. People either love it or hate it. It gets a lot of hate. And I always kept it on my shelf though. And I actually put it on my shelf of books to read before I move. Otherwise I'm going to unhaul them. And I put it on there because I thought that would really force me to pick it up and to finally give it a shot, because I have read a Ruth Ware book before and I didn't love it. It was just okay for me. So I was a little bit wary of her, and she's very polarizing, and it's almost like each book is polarizing. People either love it or hate it. And that's how it is for each book. So she's a very interesting author, I think. A lot of discussion comes from her books. So I picked this one up and I DNF'd it. I did read 120 pages of this book. So I gave it a fair shot, and it's not a long book. Here's the issues I had with this book. This book follows a reporter who gets on to this very exclusive boat that's kind of the maiden voyage of it, and it's for very rich people, and there's only, like 10 rooms total on this entire boat, and it's very exclusive, basically. So she gets a spot in there to kind of write a report on it, and build up the hype for when it actually starts taking everyday passengers where they can pay and get on it. And she has a troubling home life. She has a complicated relationship with her boyfriend. She is an alcoholic, basically, and she's on this boat. She is positive that she witnesses a murder, and she's trying to tell everybody about this thing that's happening, and no one's believing her. And she was drunk at the time, but everything she says either happened or was there is able to be disproven, or it wasn't there, or, there's blood on the deck and no, there's not, and all these things. Now, here's my issue with it. I felt like this was Girl on a Train, but it was on a boat. It was almost exactly the same. An unreliable narrator who's an alcoholic who thinks she sees a murder and no one believes her. But it's on the water instead of on a train. So I feel like I've already read this book. So I was like, you know what? I'm really not interested. And it was starting to feel like a chore to pick it up. And I wasn't really invested in it, and I wasn't really enjoying it. So I put it down. and I think I'm going to unhaul it now. So that's just going to be what it is. I don't think this book is the one for me. Is Ruth Ware for me yet? I don't know. I still want to read her newer releases because her newer releases are getting rave reviews from people who didn't even like her older books. So I'm not counting her out. I do want to read her newer books, especially The Turn of the Key. That sounds really interesting. Am I going to buy it? No. I'll get it from the library and see what I think. But yeah, so I DNF'd this one. And then I decided from here on out, every time I do a readathon, I'm going to pick a book that's going to be an unhaul challenge for me, where it will be something that fits a prompt, but it's going to be one where if I don't get to it or I DNF it or something like that, then I'm going to unhaul it at the end of the readathon. And that is what happened with 7 Black Diamonds by Melissa Marr. And I did say in that video that this was going to be my unhaul challenge book, and I did not get to it. I didn't even pick it up. I didn't even touch it. So I'm going to unhaul this one. The reason I want to start doing that is because I do need to start paring down my books quite a bit. And this will help me to pick a book, put it on my nightstand where I'm seeing it every day and it's on my radar to read for the week. And if I still don't pick it up, then there's a sign that maybe I'm just not interested in it anymore. So this was that for me for this one, and I am going to go ahead and unhaul it because I didn't even touch it. I didn't have any desire to, and this has been on my shelves for quite a while. So yeah, I'm going to unhaul this one. Okay, so that was everything. The Buzzword Readathon was not very successful for me. I only read one book, DNF'd one, and then didn't touch the third. It was a very busy week as well. We were getting ready to go to Disney, which was like, crazy, but that's how it is. So I'm comfortable with how everything went. I did read 7 books total in the month, and then 1 DNF and 1 just unhaul because I didn't get to it. So I'm okay with that. All right, so let me know down below if you guys have read any of these books, what your thoughts were, all that good stuff. And I will see you guys again real soon. Hope you have a great day. Bye.